Welcome back, guys. This is Horses of Courses. I'm Tinia.
I'm Suzanna.
And this is episode 4. This is the episode for April. And we are podcasting from Simpsonville.
Well, not really. We're 6 miles down from Simpsonville.
Yeah, someplace in Kentucky. Kind of close to
Shelbyville.
Louisville.
We're in Shelbyville.
Shelbyville, Kentucky. And we are...
Our pajamas.
In our pajamas.
Yay!
We came to a dinner and are going to a clinic tomorrow at Kentucky Humane Equine Care. And we have just a few days until the Appalachian Trainer Face-Off pickup. But we've talked to you about that coming up, I think, in the last episode. So we wanted to tell you guys about Ride for Rescue. I think this is our 11th year.
I love Ride for Rescue.
And it is hosted at Elkins Creek Horse Camp in Pedro, Ohio. And that's pretty close to Ashland, Kentucky.
It's on the edge of the Wayne National Forest.
I think Lake Vesuvius is also connected. Pretty close.
Kind of.
And we have... This kind of grew from a very small idea, and it's, I think, become a favorite at the camp. Rick and Jill, who own that camp, have really, throughout the years, I've been going there since even before Heart of Phoenix was an official organization. And to see the changes through the years, they had some tornadoes years ago, and it kind of flattened the place. They brought it back better than ever, and I think every time I show up, I think, you know, they've done things from season to season to just make it better and better. I don't know of a nicer camp on the East Coast.
It's so cute. You can sleep in a gypsy wagon. Like, they have 3 or 4 gypsy wagons, and they are so adorable, and the beds are so comfortable. I love the gypsy wagons.
It's super clean. It's super safe. They maintain the trails. There's trails that work for every type of rider. I think that I've done 3 or 4 in the years that I've gone and ridden. And you have stuff that I think's kind of strenuous, and stuff that's super easy, and everything's well marked.
And Jill loves people. She makes you feel like you're her best friend.
And the event specific to Heart of Phoenix is unique in that I usually personally lately have cooked the meals. So you can come, whether you're riding or not, it's worth coming out. You come, you buy the rescue package, you get a Ride for Rescue t-shirt. You're able to access the trails, do a group ride at your leisure. We usually do, I think this year, you know, it's a Kentucky Derby theme. It's on Derby weekend. And we are doing a hat contest. And I believe we are working on trying to do what's called Paint and Sip. And we've done these fundraisers in Huntington. But this year, what we're trying to do is... We have the artists that lead that paint event. They're going to come out, and what they're going to do is paint the scene of Elkins Creek and include a horse that you can make the color of your own horse and make it very customized. So we're hoping to get enough participants to be able to do that. I believe we need 20 folks, and I think we had about half of those committed already. So hopefully that can be a new addition. And one of the most fun things is the fact that donors send us all kinds of auction items, specifically things that are horse themed.
Now, wait a minute. I sent an Amish romance novel.
Well, so my very favorite thing to do, and I hope Nelson Detweiler listens to this, is...
He probably doesn't.
He probably doesn't. But Nelson, if you don't know, trains horses from us. Nelson used to be Amish, and Suzanna sent these Amish romance novels this one year, and I packaged them together, and I wove this story about...
Which was entirely false.
It was all false. I wove this whole story about, you know, Nelson and these romances, and it was fantastic, and people paid good money, more than they would have cost probably new, for those romance novels. So what I do personally... is not only do I cook, I don't ride any horses as a rule, but I cook and I go through all the silent auction items. And we end up raising way more money than some of these things are worth. And
thank goodness.
It's really kind of what carries the event. So if you're listening to this, before the first weekend in May. I mean, this is going to drop, well,
You're going to have to get on the ball.
I'm going to have to get on the ball. Hopefully I'll have this out with enough time that if you hear this and you want to mail us some items, we would super, super duper appreciate that.
You can bring them to us personally, too.
You can also come to the ride, bring us the items. You can mail the items or bring them by the rescue near Huntington, West Virginia. So that Ride for Rescue, I believe they were voted the best trails and best horse camp at some point on the East Coast.
I don't know, but they've been featured in that, what is it, the Best of the Horsemen magazine?
Yes, and I think
what is that magazine? They were on the TV show, and they were in that magazine.
They've been on lots of things. It's a wonderful place. Again, if you're on social media, look up Elkins Creek Horse Camp. Rick and Jill are great. Missy Walker, who's been a volunteer for a long time, she oversees the ride and does a very good job. It's family friendly. You don't have to have a horse to come out. You can come out and still enjoy the activities without riding and do what I do. I don't usually take a horse. Lots of fun. Susanna's been 3 or 4 times.
I don't know. I've been sometimes with a horse and sometimes without a horse.
And it's...
sometimes I've been with a horse I didn't like.
I don't even like horses.
Well, I do like horses. I didn't like that one that year.
So it's fun. That leads into the topic that we thought would be a great opener for this episode because this is something that you might need and not think about. You're out on a trail.
This is going to be really weird.
You're out on a trail. Susanna's like, are we really doing this? So we're out on a trail ride.
We're out on a trail.
And like when we were at Smoke Rise Ranch, were you there when that guide's horse got the stick? It stepped on a stick and the stick punctured up into the underside of the leg, and it was so bad.
No, I wasn't there.
But
if I'd have been there, I'd have known what to do.
Well, and what would you do, Susanna?
Well, I would have gotten out the tampons.
The tampons. They make ultra absorbency tampons now, which is something they wouldn't have made when you were working at the riding stables.
Yeah, see, where the tampons came from, this is really funny. This is how this works a lot of times. I had just written an article for Heart of Phoenix about carrying tampons in your saddlebags when you were trail riding for just such an occasion. And I worked at a public riding stables, and we had a horse tied up in there, a mare tied up, and one of the other idiot yahoos turned this gelding out in there, and he took exception to that horse who was tied up and kicked her with back shoes on and put the deepest hole in her leg, and I mean, there was the biggest puddle of blood you have ever seen in your life.
I bet I've seen bigger ones.
Well, I don't know, but it was big. And my daughter came in, and she goes, "Quick, Mom, get the tampons." And that's exactly what we did. We called the vet at the same time, and she said, "Yeah, put a tampon in it until I get there." Buddy, that worked fantastically. People out on the porch waiting for the ride, though, heard my daughter holler, "Quick, Mom, get the tampons."
Well,
and I came out, and they go, "Is everything all right?"
Well, I mean, it makes so much sense, and what a cheap,
Navy SEALs do it. That's what Navy SEALs carry tampons.
I have someone that I had talked to that had been in the military. They talked about that when I relayed this, and what an easy, compact way to take something along if there is an emergency like that. And I'm telling you what, leg injuries on horses, the bleeding that can happen.
Oh, it's wild.
And
it looks like you've killed a pig sometimes. It's wild.
And just keep in mind, you can get the ultra size now, and that would be way more absorbent than a super plus.
Well, if it fit in the hole, are they bigger?
They're way bigger. Oh. They're way bigger. So maybe you should carry one of each
multiple
size.
Sizes.
Yeah,
maybe
you have
your
like
friends
ultra.
Should carry one.
You have ultra. You have super plus.
This
you have
is so
super.
Weird.
You have regular, and then you have light.
I don't know,
or whatever they call them.
You spend a lot of time studying this aisle, don't you?
Well, I'm at 42. Gosh, I started to say 41, but I'm 42 now. My birthday was the 6th of April. I'm familiar with all those sizes. So if you're a male listener, sorry if this was too sensitive. If you're a female listener, I'm sure it wasn't. But that's our kind of...
If the Navy SEALs can carry tampons, the men on this can listen to this.
You can carry tampons in your saddlebag too,
yes, sir.
So, can you imagine?
This playtext for you.
We ought to tell Jill She should stock those.
She should stock tampons. Wouldn't
She
that
should
be
stock
funny?
tampons.
Maybe she does.
Watch,
But not
we'll
for that
go and she'll
purpose.
be like, girls, I've done that for years. And I would expect Jill to answer no other way. So,
Maxi pads can be wonderful wound dressers also.
Well,
I've used those before too.
I haven't used those, but I have many a time used diapers to
yeah.
wrap feet. And even I've used diapers to wrap around leg
Legs,
wounds
yeah.
when they've been out of Gamgee wrap, which, is something I've liked, and we won't.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about Gamgee another time.
All right, moving on from the tampons. Now what?
So for our featured product of April, so for this month, something that I really like, I don't know that Susanna's used it a lot. I was sending it to you.
I have now.
You have now. So it's Bluebonnet Alfalfa Nibblets.
Yep.
And the thing I love, for one, alfalfa is an incredible weight gain option for horses. Obviously, if you can get baled hay, that's great. Most people can't. And so...
Most people can't get bales of hay?
Alfalfa hay.
Well, you didn't say that. You said baled
Well,
hay.
it's alfalfa, but you have to want the bale. Like, alfalfa is a great weight gainer, but most people can't get the baled hay option. But...
Hold still, you're tipping over our trash can.
Listen, guys, we're in our pajamas recording this, and we have the recording phone sitting on a trash can between us.
Talking about tampons in our pajamas with a trash can.
We are so fancy. Hollywood stars.
We're real worlding it today.
Yeah. So if you can't get consistent bales of alfalfa, the best thing that I have found that is easy to deal with are these alfalfa nibblets. They are so tiny, and they have a little bit of rice bran mixed in with them. They dissolve really well, and you do not have to soak them. They are so tiny.
They dissolve really well, and you do not have to soak them.
You do not have to soak them. The horse's saliva will help to dissolve them because there's some rice bran mixed in. So,
oh, shoot.
They dissolve really well. You do not have to soak them. If you want to soak them, they will soak.
They just dissolve when you look at them.
They will. They will dissolve quicker than a traditional alfalfa pellet because
they are great.
The thing about it is, if you actually have soaked a traditional alfalfa pellet, the
takes
amount of time on the bag has not proven to me to be accurate, and especially in the winter. And honestly, it's so much better to put weight on a horse with a forage. So safety-wise, and I think efficacy-wise, all the way around, I just like alfalfa.
It's very rare that a horse can't tolerate alfalfa. There are a few, but it's very rare.
And the one thing that you knew that I only learned recently was what is the stones?
Enteroliths.
Enteroliths.
Yeah.
That they are more common in horses on a really high alfalfa diet. They're not common anyway, so I don't think it would make me, as a rule, avoid feeding an alfalfa. But if you're looking to put weight on a horse, you're already feeding alfalfa, and you maybe you don't even, like, your store isn't keeping it real well, you can go to Petco and have this set up on auto ship, and I think it's only $22 a bag, which in the grand scheme, for it to be delivered to your door, I think is a good bargain. So,
oh, I forgot we ordered them from Petco. I sent them from Chewy for Sven. Oops. It's on Chewy also.
Well, it may be on both, or maybe it's just Chewy, and I've told these folks a tale.
I don't know.
It's that kind of evening.
I sent it from Chewy.
If you go on to Chewy, but if we've got our auto ship on that, then Chewy definitely. Petco ships chopped alfalfa for sure. The chopped bagged alfalfa we get from Petco, and that's also a good deal. If you don't like pelleted, you can get the chopped alfalfa. That's from Petco. Chewy is who has the Bluebonnet Alfalfa Nibblets. They're fantastic. And that rolls really nicely into our adoptable horse of the month. We have
She shops on Chewy?
No, but I do send her this feed.
That's true.
I send her this feed. Tamira is a spotted saddle horse, maybe a cross, maybe spotted saddle horse, saddlebred, maybe not. She was actually found feral in northern West Virginia probably 2.5 to 3 years ago. and had been by herself, very isolated with no other horses.
Well, she jumped. She was handled as a baby, but then she jumped
Got
the fence
out.
and got onto the neighbor's 600 acres,
And that's
they
where
couldn't catch her.
That's where she lived her life. And
she's like, woohoo!
when she was caught and brought to us,
She was fat.
She was fat, and but she was odd. I mean, she was just kind of behavior wise. I mean, she was a quirky horse. Pretty easy though to halter and get handled, probably because of the many years prior that she had been haltered as a baby. But she wasn't picked in the first time she went through the ATFO, and I think 2022, maybe 2022. She was trained by Colby O'Connor, got a home. They really weren't able to do a lot with her, didn't stick with the trainer. She came back, and she has been with Kaylee Eves in Ohio. Kaylee's done a really lovely job, I think, of bringing her out of her shell, making her a more personable horse. Not so worried about her head. Kaylee says that she is a fantastic trail horse, very fearless, unflappable on the trail. She was up at Equine Fair with us and just a few weeks ago, and she was wonderful. She was very kind of comfortable with the crowd, kept her head toward the front by the bars, wanting people to interact with her. So she's come a long way. I believe she's around 14 years old. She's probably 14.2 to 14.3 hands. She's a little pacey. I think it wouldn't take a lot if you worked with a good gaited trainer. Like we like Carl Bledsoe of Just Gait. You can look him up on social media. And I think somebody like that was really dedicated to Carl's practices could probably get her gaiting smoothly. She's adoptable. Her trainer does have to bring her back to us, so she's coming back to the rescue at the end of the month because her trainer is competing in the Appalachian Trainer Face-Off, and she needs that spot. But she's put a lot of time into Tamira, and she is willing to take her back and would certainly work with her if a client or someone adopted her and wanted to put her back into training. She really did a nice
job.
Yeah, very nice job on a sensitive horse, not a super straightforward, easy horse. That goes into another spotted saddle horse we all may know. I mean, if you followed us for long, this is our Ding-a-ling of the month feature.
There's a lot of ding-a-lings. This one isn't about one ding-a-ling. It's about 22
so
ding-a-lings.
Many ding-a-lings. And if we think of all the ding-a-lings from way back when we first rescued him, it was 2020. It was 2021, and around this time of year, it just showed up in my memories, and then his adopter had shared a photo of him wanting a popsicle.
Yeah.
So I posted the before photo of Anse. We call him Devil Anse because he's from Mingo County, where Devil Anse Hatfield was from. It was just this very stark photo shot with not a great quality camera in really low light. So if you...
But it got shared nationally, that one photo.
Internationally. There were people in Australia worried about him. Do you remember the comments from the other day? Someone even said they were in like Australia and read about him.
I stopped reading the comments because the ding-a-lings were ticking me off.
There were so many.
I couldn't keep up.
So the photo, he thankfully, like Suzanna pointed out in our post, the photo was very, like, you could very much see the outline of his markings on his face, which are very specific. So that is how, when we shared the photos and the color looked different in his after photo 3 years later in good light. So you realize that he's a red and white or a chestnut and white horse. And the original photo, you can tell he's chestnut if you really look close, but on first glance, it looks like he maybe is bay and white or black and white, but that very distinctive marking on his head tells the tale. Well, I didn't see them all. Suzanna saw them. There were so many people on there.
Yeah, good try. That's not the same horse.
Yeah, good try. Not the same horse. Oh.
Black and white horse, red and white horse. White. Right.
And there were so many of those way back when we first got him. That same kind of stuff circulated. You know what burns me up about it is that when you show them with the head markings that it's obviously without question the same horse, and you explain, hey, zoom in, it's a low light photo, it's clearly getting dark. Nobody ever comes back and says, I'm sorry, I was a ding-a-ling.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean,
you're
literally.
right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Any
Obviously,
of the ding-a-lings, though, they never come back and say,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Like
that one, that's what we were mad about the other day. That one accused us of buying that foal for $1,000 from the auction.
Oh.
That was what we were mad about.
That was going to be our ding-a-ling of the month.
But then we forgot what the ding-a-ling was.
What was that? I had shared... What was it?
I don't even know.
I shared an adult horse. And it was like an update on the horse or something.
Yeah.
And somebody decided, and they came under, they're like, we supported you till you bought that foal for $1,000.
From the auction, from regular people who were bidding on it and fundraised on it. And we're like, what are you talking about?
And it seemed like supporters were like, you're crazy. And they were going in there. And when the person figured out that they were wrong and it wasn't our rescue, because, for one, we rarely go to an auction. We certainly don't outbid good homes, and we certainly don't pay $1,000 for a foal. None of it applied to us. They just deleted it instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry that for 6 hours people have argued here or whatever.
But it made the post circulate, and it wasn't even that great of a post.
I mean, that's the thing. Honestly, here's the thing. Controversy gets circulation. Facebook pays us for circulation, which helps us run the rescue. So
whatever.
Keep
being ding-a-lings.
Yeah, keep being ding-a-lings. But honestly, pay attention before you decide that a horse isn't the same as an after. Really look at markings, and if you don't see the markings, then you can ask, hey, I'm not seeing this. It's fine, but just don't make some accusation when you don't know what you're talking about. It's dumb. Moving on to our big topic. There are so many topics we could talk about. This one struck me.
We will.
But we'll get to them all. This is why you should never rehome your old horse. And I'm going to just say never. Because if you cling to the occasional rare instance where something works out, you are still setting your horse up for disaster. And until that horse dies, you can't be sure what will happen. So, I'm not talking about your super sound, super marketable, 17-year-old horse that still has a career ahead, that's healthy. When I say your old horse, I really mean your old or your disadvantaged horse. And you just don't rehome them. If you can't keep them, then my recommendation is to not seek out a rescue to turn them into and put your obligation on to another set of people. My recommendation is to put your horse to sleep if you truly can't or will not take care of your disadvantaged or old horse. We received a horse yesterday. Suzanna got the call.
Well, yeah. And
the situation was what you were originally told.
Well, the horse had been posted on a goat for sale page for $750, and the people wanted to know if they paid, if they offered $500 and the girl accepted it and they brought the horse to us, would we take the horse in?
And what happened, and you could look at the horse, and I said to Suzanna, as soon as she seen it, she said, can we take her? I said, yeah, let's take her, but that is an old horse. And
it's an old Belgian.
And she's an old Belgian mare. We named her Ophelia. And I went to check on her. I was driving horses yesterday, picking them up way out in Kentucky, like almost 4 hours away from the rescue. And it had taken me about 10 hours to make the round trip.
Because that's how Tinia does things.
Yeah.
She's so talented at turning 4 hours into 10.
So much. And I've done that 2 days in a row.
2 days in a row, she's had that talent exposed.
That's been hard. So I get back in, and it's dark. And this poor old mare, for one, she's terrified of me. But she won't really bolt away because she's been forced to just stand and allow you to handle her. But
she doesn't feel well enough to either.
She doesn't feel good at all. But, quick look in her mouth. I mean, she's 30 plus years old. Why is this starved Belgian dumped at an auction? Because that was what ultimately had happened. The mare ran through a low-end auction on the 11th of April, was bought by this woman who turned around, flipped her, and posted her for sale. Who knows what she paid for? I would say probably not more than $200 or $300, maybe not even that. But somebody had dumped her there. After her tail is docked, you can tell she's worked. She's not been a horse that's lived a life of leisure. Dumped her there. It's very likely that the only thing we can offer this old mare is euthanasia, which we're happy to do, and I'm thankful that we can. But don't put euthanasia on somebody else. If you can't take care of your horse, and it's not a real likely candidate for sales in the world that you have, and a marketable horse, a rideable horse without significant health concern, then you should put your horse to sleep. And it doesn't matter if you have grown up believing that there's some magical retirement place for animals when you don't want them anymore.
They wind up in a mess so much of the time.
They do. There's no such place. There are almost no really well-funded long-term operating sanctuaries. Those that are full. Those that accept horses at any point have a waiting list. Your horse is likely to die before it can ever get in. And also, why burden an organization that depends on donations to take care of your obligation? If your horse has navicular, DSLD, uveitis, heaves, these are things that they're chronic conditions that deteriorate sometimes rapidly. Cellulitis. Chronic cellulitis. I mean, if you have a little tiny flare, lower limb, young horse, treated it quick, maybe you might, and that's been years behind. But otherwise, we had the same thing happen with a very old Percheron mare, Frances. You all probably followed that story. We rehabbed her after she was dumped at the auction, claimed to be 12. This Belgian mare, they claimed she was 14. These are always a lie. It's always a lie. You see a big draft dumped. Tends to usually be a mare, but
or there's something wrong with it. I've seen a 4-year-old dump, but there was something really wrong.
I've seen them dumped with catastrophic issues as well. But if you're not seeing anything real obvious, they're just thin. They're probably 30 plus years old, or there's a health concern. And so when you with Frances, what we found after rehabbing her is her legs blew up with cellulitis, and it was not the first time, and it probably contributed to why she was there, but her age in and of itself did. So don't convince yourself that your horse with the big golf ball size knee that's arthritic, that can't bend it well for the farrier, or the horse that is crippled in the back end from significant hock and stifle arthritis.
Or covered in sarcoids.
It's eye cancer, blind in both eyes, or actively ulcerating eyes.
I have a ring-bone horse, a horse who had cancer in one eye, and I had to have it removed. Not the same horse. And my personal horse has a sarcoid on his shoulder. Bang, bang, bang. Here I am.
Right? And so when you get horses, this leads me into a comment, and I would like to talk more about this in a different episode, but we were at Equine Fair, and, we mentioned a horse that needed equiox. And,
oh, yeah, that was another good Ding-a-ling.
Right? And the person goes, well, I don't want a horse with maintenance. And I said, well, I understand. And, I get maybe not wanting to acquire a horse right off with maintenance, but you do need to understand that at any point, a horse could, within 2 days of you taking it home, have something happen that will now require maintenance that you didn't know about, that the person who had the horse didn't know about. The horse, certainly, if you keep it long enough, will need some kind of maintenance, or you're going to be a person who does what we're talking about here, and when the horse needs maintenance, you dump it at an auction, or you tell yourself it's going to go to a wonderful sanctuary, and you take it to a rescue that says, oh yes, that's not actually well-funded and isn't going to give the care it needs, and it starves to death there. Or you post it on the Craigslist.
On the goat page.
And somebody comes and gives you some money and ties the horse up to a trampoline that starves to death in the backyard, never having any of the care it needs. Those are the endings of your old horse. And if you're hearing this and you're like, well, I know my old horse ended up doing great, even though it was disadvantaged, it probably didn't. Go check on it. You check on it. And think about how long it's been there. Can you actually see real photos of the horse? Is there a current video? Or do they just tell you it's doing fine? The odds are wildly in favor of some horrible thing happening to your horse. Put your big girl bloomers on and do the right thing for your horse. If you can't keep it, put your horse to sleep where it never knows a bad day. And that's something that rescues across the United States would do so much better able to work on pressing issues of horses that have fallen into neglect or that need handling or training if they weren't trying to just get the aged, sick horses into the organization, vetted, and laid to rest when the owners didn't do it. So that is, I think, one of the biggest messages I've ever pushed at Heart of Phoenix. And I certainly, it won't be the last.
This has been a really weird episode.
We've gone through tampons, and we've gone through Devil Anse Hatfields, and put your big girl bloomers on, and we're in our pajamas. But you
with a trash can.
With the phone on the trash can. But, that just kind of, as Heart of Phoenix always says, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And
we make it work somehow.
We make it
always.
Work. Next time, I am hoping that we will come to you at ATFO pickup. Hopefully, we'll have in closing, we'll have an extra episode, a bonus episode for maybe to kick off May, and then we'll have one later in May, a traditional episode, but kick off May with an ATFO episode, maybe get some interviews with the trainers and so forth. Pickup is April 30th in Winfield, West Virginia, and we have well over 30 trainers between all the categories that we have: Outlaw, Diamond, Platinum, and Whippersnapper. We have a great response all the way around. We've been collecting horses from everywhere. One of the reasons that I'm out here, not just this clinic, but I'm out here picking up some horses to take back to the facility. We had 2 horses come tonight while I was gone from Mulligan, the main facility, and I brought 2 back yesterday on that trip.
We're like Noah's Ark.
I feel like it. And then we had that Belgian.
2 by 2.
Yeah, and we had that Belgian, that poor Belgian mare, Ophelia, came in while I was gone yesterday.
And we got Sven, who's big enough to be 2 horses.
Yeah, we have a 17-3 draft who's in good shape and was turned over in lovely shape to Rainbow Meadows in Kansas.
He's a big dude.
Yeah. So watch him in the ATFO. Who knows who will pick him? He'll be in the Outlaw division just because of his size, and he knows he can push people around.
I think that the Appalachian Trainer face-off in August, you and I ought to do a headstand on Sven.
Matt, we could. He wouldn't even know we were there. Depends on what trainer gets him and how well they do.
Yeah.
But
we'll
at least Photoshop ourselves on Sven.
We might do it.
But anyway, that is all this time, guys. I am so sleepy. I've been writing it on my notepad.
She's getting old.
I'm getting old and I'm tired, but we definitely wanted to make sure we got a regular episode out this month. And so look for the ATFO pickup episode sometime the beginning of May, and then a regular episode toward the end of May.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.